special edition of the East County Sports Report. We're live on the week of the second annual Tony Berner Memorial Trophy / Cup, whatever we're going to call it, Dave. But we have Coach Casey Ash of the West Hills Wolfpack, and of course Ron Berner of the El Capitan Vaqueros. And Dave, breaking news. You'd think that Coach Ash and Coach Berner are all in sync with the big festivities, especially the scholarships. Well, right when we got on the air with them right here, that Coach Ash said to Coach Berner, "Hey, we're wearing the black uniforms, and you guys are wearing the gold still, right?" So they're finalizing details. We're just 2 days away from the game, Dave, but finalizing details for the game this week.
Well, first and foremost, I just want to put my 2 cents in, and I think that for as long as this has been put in, how long has it been, Ron, that this was in the works?
Well, it's actually, just last year was the first year that we had it. Don Rutledge and I kind of met last year and talked about it, and he presented it to Case, and Casey was all for it. So, it was a culmination of a couple months of talking and trying to figure out what we wanted to do, and it just kind of fit pretty good.
And the funny thing is, Ron, everybody still wonders. They get it confused now. Is it a cup? Is it a trophy? Is it a? We've seen it ourselves, so we know that it's a cup. But really, can you elaborate on how big of a friendly rivalry this has become over the years with the Wolfpack, as opposed to before they were kind of a Santana thing and and when did that really take place, you think? All of a sudden it was El Capitan and West Hills.
Well, the rivalry, El Cap and West Hills, going back to when they first started playing, was always a big competitive game, even when Coach Sutton was there and Dave Wattstadt. When I took over at El Cap, Steve Sutton was still head coach, and I believe Case was the D coordinator, and we all coached together. So kind of the rivalry started because, Steve Sutton was my mentor, who I learned, a lot of my offensive stuff from originally. So in our first year, was a lot of stuff coming from West Hills kids, including one of my stepsons that, you stole Coach Sutton's offense. And that's just kind of where the rivalry started. And it just kind of continued from there. We've always had such competitive games. It doesn't matter who has the better team on paper. It's just, they're like, crosstown rivals, and everybody's always played hard. So it didn't really matter. I think I was telling some the other day, in 2006, we had probably at the time, one of the best teams ever. We had been scoring, 40, 50 points on everybody. We played West Hills, and I think it was ended up being a 4 or 5 point game. So it's just how things have gone over the years. And, when we play each other, that game night and all that, we don't really talk much and don't say anything. But, I think there's a mutual respect on both sides of us. And it just has kind of matured into that. Even in bad years, one of us still kind of looks forward to, having a chance to beat each other because it's a rivalry. That's how I look at it.
Yeah, and Coach Casey, we were having a little bit of a glitch having you hear what Coach Ron just said, but he was just basically talking about how you guys have decided to keep this series alive through, Tony Berner's memory, but also that when you guys take that field of mutual respect, there was certainly some hard hitting in that game last year, especially towards the end of the game. Some good fair hitting, some rough hitting. They really wanted that game. Coach Ash, were you with us, and can you elaborate and help us and comment on that? Yeah, I thought Coach might have froze on us right there. Coach Berner, just the series, you mentioned what's gone on to keep this series alive, but also can you just talk about your son once again for everyone? And hey, you know what, this game is going to be heartfelt every time, but also a celebration for your family.
Yeah, I've never really had a chance to tell Casey, and I've told this to Don Rutledge, that, I'm forever in their debt for allowing this game to be called the Tony Burner game, for multiple reasons, but not just because of our rivalry, but it kind of gives, sometimes, El Cap gets a little bit of an edge just because it's an emotional game and my players really want, it's a big deal to them. Obviously, what it means to me. And last year was a good example. West Hills had better talent than we had last year. I mean, they were better than us, but it seemed to be an emotional edge for us last year, the first game and all that. So that's just kind of what it's turned into. We've had the rivalry for a long time, and for many years, Case and I talked about what we could call it. So it just kind of worked, it's unfortunate the way it worked out, but it worked out that way. And last year was our first year awarding a scholarship to each school. And our goal is we're trying to get to 6 this year. That's the goal.
Coach Casey, hopefully you're back with me now. Coach Ron, just to kind of establish the history of why we're continuing to renew this game, and said that maybe last year you guys came in as the favored team, and maybe El Capitan rode that momentum of the flame of the trophy, if you will, the desire to win that game on the road. Maybe the shoe's on the other foot a little bit this time, now that you guys lost that initial rivalry game, and maybe you're expected to win again this season, considering the slow start by the Vaqueros. But maybe that's going to play into the Wolfpack's favor this time.
Well, the fact of the matter is, Ramon, I understand they've gotten off to a slow start, but looking at the film, we certainly feel that they're the best team that we've played so far. And I think regardless of, these kids have fairly short memories. I think they want to win every year on both sides, I'm sure, regardless of really what happened the year before. That was kind of, that group of kids' result. And I'm sure Ron's new group of kids is trying to make that happen again. And my new group of kids is trying to make a different result this time around.
Dave? Well, maybe I got Dave frozen too, Coach Ron. I'll just continue with you.
I'm not frozen.
Okay, Dave, do you have any?
I look like I'm frozen, but I'm not.
He was just nodding off.
I was at that game, and there's this one word to sum it up. Really, is just emotional. From both sides of the ball. As far as the fans that attended the game, I'm sure there was a lot of friends and family too. In reality, and I don't know if Coach Burner would agree with that, but it really seemed like there really wasn't. It wasn't about who was going to win. In reality, it was more about the competition and the whole reason why the game was being played, and because it was the first Tony Burner Cup. Even it'll be called the Classic, I'm sure, after that initial game. But I had never seen such a tremendous football game in quite a few years. My son was actually there, and for him to be 13 years old at the time, and he said, you know what, Dad, this is probably the best game I've seen, and I've seen quite a few football games. That includes professional games. Just the intensity that both of the teams played with, and just the blood, sweat, and tears, and the hits, the miraculous catches, just the emotions, like I said, again, all over the field, from the coaches to the players to the fans. You couldn't have written a better script.
I could have.
Casey could have had a different ending.
Well, I'll talk about it last year. West Hills fell to El Capitan 31-21, but it didn't, certainly it came down to the end of the game when Jacobo Villa had that late sack that kind of sealed the deal right there. Wick Hauser, now a senior, he passed for 2 touchdowns, ran for another, Coach Ash, so you got to be careful of his dual threat. Another returning in this game, Donnie Green, he got a big workload Coach Berner in the game, over 140 yards rushing for you, Coach Ash. Cole Klingerman and Steve Christini, they had a combined 5 receptions for 70 yards. And I think, look at you guys will look to take advantage maybe of a El Capitan defense that kind of trying to get their pride back right now, Coach Ash.
Yeah, well, we all know a wounded animal can be dangerous, and they've offensive teams early in the year. I'm sure over the last couple weeks, we both had a bye last week, so I'm sure they've worked on things over the last couple of weeks and are coming out and saying, hey, we're a new defense now, and this is our first chance to show it. And I'm sure they're going to pay with, a great deal of pride. And, we'll find out what we can do against it. But I don't think past performance isn't always a good indicator in a rivalry game of what to expect. Sometimes you get to a rivalry game and kids who've been, just so, all of a sudden show out. And sometimes it works in just the opposite way. So just because they've had some points scored on them previously this season, I don't necessarily think that means we're going to get anything less than an outstanding effort from the El Cap defense.
Yeah, Dave, you keep going with Coach Ron. We're working through some of our technical glitches, but I think we think of El Capitan and that great offense, the big scores of late. But I have a feeling the clock's going to be running pretty fast in this one. Certainly, I expect a lot of carries from Green, but I expect Taylor Grassmick to get a lot of carries. I think we're going to see kind of mirror images. I think this game is going to be contested on the ground, Dave.
Well, I'll tell you what. I think it is going to be. It's going to be a much different. I think it's going to be more of an offensive game for sure. Just from what I saw, especially on behalf of El Capitan, I haven't seen West Hills personally on the field yet this season, but I only had to take in a quarter of this last game against Patrick Henry. And I think what it was, it coached like 52 points had already been scored in one quarter. So, and the way that game turned out, I mean, we talked about maybe the defense ran out of gas, but really it wasn't about a run out of gas. It was just so much scoring. And I mean, what really happened there? I mean, the defense, they never quit, as we had that discussion. But I mean, what's the key? I mean, you have the offense. What's the key on defense to be able to stop the big playmakers? I mean, you got Jake Mayhew, you got the Christini, you got Cole Klingerman. That I tell you what, I haven't seen many better receivers than him in this league.
Coach Ron, you getting that?
Was that?
Yep.
I'm sorry. Was that for me?
No, that was for Ron. I'm sorry.
Just worried. He's asking you just to reiterate if you're not catching it. We're having the technical difficulties, Coach Ron. Dave just asking about some of the offensive weapons that the Wolfpack have. They're kind of a conservative offense, but obviously extremely efficient, especially with their 2 quarterbacks. He mentioned running back Jake Mayhew and also receivers Cole Clearman and Steve Christini.
Yeah, it's going to be, it's kind of no surprise right now to anybody that our defense has been struggling. It's a young defense. We graduated almost everybody last year and really only have 3 returners, and they're young and making some mistakes. But like Coach Ash said, we both had 2 weeks off, and we've been working hard on shoring up some of the problem areas. But yeah, Jake's a heck of a runner, heck of a middle linebacker, and I was kind of make a deal with Casey. If he doesn't blitz, we won't screen. So I don't know if we can make that fly, but he loves the blitz, and he knows I like to screen. Like we play each other so many times, we know a lot of each other's tendencies, and I think like Case was talking about, there's certain players that might be having just an okay year. You get into a rivalry game, and they're different players. They rise to the occasion. They play maybe, above their head. And it's what kind of makes rivalry games, something special. We've been working hard all week long. He's got those 2 quarterbacks. They both have their specialties, what they can do. it's going to be. I think it's going to be a heck of a ball game. It'll be fun.
Yeah, and Coach Ash, I just want to know about your offense right now and those two quarterbacks. Hopefully you can hear me. I'm really sorry, guys, about the technical glitch I'm having. But Coach Ash, they got two quarterbacks who really mirror each other statistically. Hopefully you can hear me on this question. But you have Gerardo Hernandez and you have Brady Obed. You couldn't draw up their statistics any more closely. How does that affect who's playing in the game? Is it just a standard rotation between the two quarterbacks right now? Obviously, the younger quarterback has a bright future, let's just say. But just really funny how their statistics. I mean, they are almost identical, man.
Yeah, well, right now it's been so far it's been strictly a rotation. They have traded every series so far. That's not how we had it drawn up or we'd like it to be at this point in the season, but it's how it's worked out, and it's going to stay that way until somebody kind of takes the job by the horn. I do think that they both deserve to play. That's the way it's played out so far. It is statistics are close to one another. That's kind of an anomaly, but that is representative of how they've played to this point. You know, it's been a very even competition, and it'd be over after. And so we're going. You know, it may continue like that the entire season.
Yeah, is that just
it definitely presents some challenge to play each week, but there are some positives to it as well. They both have you know the table and playing both of us, both of them take advantage of.
Yeah, Dave, I think it's more of a representation of what Casey is implementing right now with two quarterbacks who came into the season inexperienced. I mean, as maybe they're not going as far downfield as some other quarterbacks, but they're not making any mistakes almost. Period. They're nearly flawless in their execution. It's just a matter of how quickly they get down the field. So if this does turn into a ground game, you're going to see a very, very close game. Despite you see the records on the screen, this game is rated a dead even game, Dave. There's no doubt about it. These coaches know it. I think the players know it. I think everybody knows maybe because they'll cap at home. Maybe they can carry that momentum from last year's win. Maybe they can get their first win. You and I kind of predicted that we were going with El Cap this week, but that's only because we're trying to weigh the emotional factors into the game. If you look at all the ratings, I think West Hills is the slight favorite in the game, Dave. Nah, I want to hear what he had to say about that, but I'm not getting his audio. Coach Ron, you won last year's game. I want to say, based on that emotion, I asked Casey this question kind of earlier. We're having the communication difficulties, but certainly the storyline would be ride the wave of emotion as an underdog in that game last year and get the job done on the road. West Hills certainly was disappointed but respectful in awarding the trophy to you. So I'm just saying that kind of the shoe's on the other foot this time. You guys are at home in this game dedicated to your son, but West Hills is going to come in even with the better record as the hungrier team. We lost this game last year. Your guys know that, right, Coach Ron?
They do, but I think Casey said earlier, like, it's a different group of kids. So, yeah, they remember, don't remember, but I don't think there's an edge or an advantage to anybody who won it last year, because it doesn't, like, the Cup is brand new, but we've always had these games, and they're always games that are just tooth and nail and everybody's fighting, and it usually comes down to somebody making a mistake somewhere, a fumble or an interception, a bad pass, whatever, a missed tackle. And, I don't see an advantage to us. I mean, I coach as hard as I coach this week as I do any other week. I watch as much film. So and West Hill should be the favorite. They're 2-2. We haven't won a game yet, so we're still scrapping, trying to, figure out what's going on. And, Casey's got to be the favorite. There's no way they're not. They have 2 wins and they're ranked higher than us.
Well, I'm still not getting Dave, but I'll just continue with you. Probably just wrap this up. We really haven't done the series a very good service there for you, but we definitely wanted to talk to you and Casey. I think we got enough out of this to proceed a little bit. But Ron, if I could just, maybe we'll get Casey back and Dave's audio back. I just want to ask you one thing away from the game, some news that may have come out within the last 24 to 48 hours. Given some discussion about the future of the parity in the Grossmont Hills and Grossmont Valley League, are there any immediate changes that could take place as early as next season that could create a 4-team league with those top 4 teams, Grossmont, Steel Canyon, Helix, and Granite Hills, and turning the Valley League into a 7-team league? I know Coach Longerbone has said he has already started plans to pick up that extra game, and that you guys as coaches may have met or talked. I don't know if it was a group call or if it was a meeting as early as this week to try to make this change as early as next season. It sounds like an inconvenience to do it right away, but just to even things out maybe a little bit. I don't know how it works in those power rankings. And I know you're not afraid to take on all comers. Can you tell us the status of this situation? I know the league, the conference has always said we want to try to work in a 2-year cycle just because that's good for everybody in scheduling, planning, and the way your athletic directors need to do things.
Well, I just heard about it today, so it's really kind of ironic because after we had a pretty good year in 13, in 14 we got moved to the Hills, and if I remember right, Casey, that happened to him once before too, and we did really good in 14, but for the last 5 years we've been kind of getting buried a few times, in a unbelievably competitive league. If you look at it right now, I believe there's Helix is number 1, Steel Canyon's number 4. Grossmont's number 7. I think Granite's number 10. So I have I get to look forward to going into a league playing 4 of my 5 teams or top 10 teams. And so we had lobbied. Casey was there with me, and I believe at the time with Sean McDade when he's up Mount McGill, to maybe move one of the teams over to the Valley and have 5 teams in the Hills. And that barely passed last year. I mean, it was AD's, I think, voted it down. It went to the principals council. It was tiebreaker. We switched it. And now I just hear today, and you just said you talked to Coach Bone, that there's a lot of talk about going to a 7-team Valley and a 4-team Hills. And Monte Vista was the one that was going over next year. And I understand why Monte Vista doesn't want to do it. They had a couple good years, and now they're cast over to compete with, nothing bad, but 2 charter schools and 2 schools that have almost 3,000 students. That's a tough thing to compete against. So I don't think it's voted on yet. It's going to be voted on. It's going back to everybody. But I had proposed a while back going with 3 4-team leagues, but we can't find a 4th or another a 12th school to come in with us. So I believe this is going to go through. And you know what? It's above my pay grade. So it is what it is, and we play who we play. Yeah,
Coach Casey, I don't have any comment on that. Are you with me? I don't know. It looks like you might be frozen on me again. Oh, there you are. Is there a contingency plan to maybe make this happen as early as next year?
Yep.
Okay, thanks, Coach Ron. Yeah, Coach Casey, a little fuzzy. Dave, do I have any audio from you? No, this might be all on me, Coach Ron. I think that might be a good place. Coach Casey, you back with me? All right. I'm going to chalk this one up to me, Coach Ron.
Sorry,
I think
in and out.
Yeah, I might be killing us here, brother, with my connection. I'm supposed to be running the show. Let me give you one more chance. I'm going to try to connect with Coach Ack.
my my lap. I don't know if that'll help.
Now I hear you pretty good right now. I just don't know if you were hearing me. I kind of changed the subject, but I think it, other than all due respect, Ron, to the emotions of this game, we might have saved this broadcast a little bit with that piece of breaking news. I mean, there's no doubt that something is taking place this week, and you know, my colleagues often talk about it a lot, and I kind of shun it a little bit and let you guys make the decisions on those things. But when you see the 4 teams are in Division 1 and every other team is Division 3 or lower, it would seem to make sense.
I mean, I don't know if Case can hear, but it makes sense. We've talked about it for a while, that there's such a, okay, so in 14, everybody said it's too bad you're playing in this league. Well, we competed. Obviously, we did really good, but really, it's once every 8 years you get that kind of a team for us.
Yeah. And we remember that. And I know, like I think, we're schedule some tough teams out of league too. And I think going back and looking at it, maybe you might have certain regrets on the way you've scheduled, but you always want to take on the biggest challenges. That's the way you've always approached things there. So I think demographics have just not worked in your favor over these last few years, and the way things are just shrinking down. And Dave put in a private chat. I mean, we all know who the 12th school we'd like it to be, but there's just no way of it happening. He's even trying to make fun of it right here by putting Christian on the screen because his audio is not working. But we don't want to, disrespect them. There are reasons why that hasn't happened. You do have a little bit of relationship with the Patriots. You've played them before and scheduled them, but I just don't think it's something that I don't think the Grossmont Conference. I think there's affinity for their program. I think everyone gets along. I just don't think that Christian feels like it's a comfortable fit to be in football in the Grossmont Conference. And I don't think the Grossmont Conference feels comfortable, quite frankly, with Christian. I'll say that, and you could just maybe tell me why I'm right.
Well, I'm going to have to plead the fifth on that one, right?
Yeah.
So there's multiple reasons. We've talked about it before. There's just too many reasons why that the Grossmont district doesn't think it'll work. It's not as simple as just add them in. There's other sports, other things going on. It's been talked about. It's been talked about adding a school that's a little farther east into it. It's just the logistics just don't work out.
Let me bring in Coach Ash. He's found a seat. He might have even got on a good connection. You hear me pretty good, Coach? You look pretty good.
Thank you. Yeah, I hear you better.
Good. We might actually recover the show here, and thank you for being so patient. I thought this was a good idea. I still think it's a good idea. We're going to do more of these, and hopefully your programs will continue to participate. But I changed the subject in the middle of the show. I will get back to the game. I want to wrap this up with you guys. We've already been on a half an hour. But contingency plans possibly underway in the Grossmont Conference to switch the leagues to a 4-7 team league. What have you heard this week? What are your feelings about it? You're kind of, you're going to be in the Valley League. Nothing's going to change for you, but we'd like an update. If there's anything that you could tell the public. I've talked to Coach Longerbone saying he's already making plans to have a 3-game league schedule as early as next year and trying to find an opponent perhaps up the I-15, maybe out of section, maybe not.
Yeah, it's an interesting idea. We just went well, actually, we haven't even gone 6-5 with 6 in the Valley yet. That was the plan for the next 2 years. And then this idea just came up today, as far as I know. So this is kind of breaking news here with the 7-4. Personally, I would like to give the 6-5 a chance. At least 7-4 seems a little extreme to me. I understand why some teams would want that. I think the entire landscape's changing a little bit, and you're getting an increasing amount of distance between the haves and the have-nots. And that's scary for a lot of teams. I think traditionally, historically, there's been one of those Valley teams who could compete with just about everybody in the Hills League. And that might not be the way it is right now, but I don't know yet if that means that it's going to stay that way. I think typically if you look back at things, it's not that Granite and Grossmont and Steele and Helix have just dominated everybody in the league or in the conference, excuse me. That's not the way it's been. I understand right now that there's separation between those 4 teams and everybody else, but I don't know yet that I'm sold that it's going to stay that way, for the foreseeable future. Personally, I'd like to give the 6 and 5 a chance and kind of see how that goes first and then look at it again.
Coach Berner, if we can wing it like this, and we're halfway through this season now, we're trying to solidify now. I understand the conference has said let's do like a 2-year cycle because that helps scheduling and all this. But if we can wing it like this, couldn't we just kind of say, who's going to be that 5th team next year because we know that this program is on the up and up, or just take the 5th highest rated team in those legacy 2-year cycle power ratings that the CIF has? I don't know. That might be your team at this point, or Valhalla. I think maybe it's too close to call and doesn't matter.
Well, when Case is talking about the 6 and 5, Monta Vista is supposed to go over to the Hills next year for 2 years. And what I've heard today is that they're talking about week 8 would be a crossover rivalry game. So, for example, for us, we would probably play Granite Hills week 8. I'm not sure. Valhalla would probably play Steel Canyon. I just heard, a little bit of tidbits. I mean, it really caught me by surprise because I thought, like Casey said, hey, we're 6 and 5 next year. This is what we're going to do. It's kind of back to the old, Grossmont North League like we used to be. Almost every team in there is pretty bad would be from the North, the old North, and it was kind of like some of the old rivalries coming back. And I don't know where this came from because it was hard getting the 6 and 5 switched over, and all of a sudden now this is there. I was like, wow, where'd it come from? I kind of like to see try the 6 and 5. What I've also heard is that a lot of schools now aren't sticking to the 2-year contract. A lot of schools out of our conference are kind of allowing 1-year contracts. So I don't know if that's what they're talking about doing.
Well, Coach Ash, maybe I could just kind of round it up a little bit with our game this Friday, and Dave can't get in a conversation here. I'm trying to see if I can fix things up, but maybe you could just encapsulate the way the teams are structured right now in Division III as it pertains to how important this game is for you guys. Obviously, the official in-season ranking yesterday, and, well, you're squarely on the bubble right now. Number playoff picture, Coach Ash, but can't afford a slip up. And El Capitan, they're down near the bottom. They need to start particularly this game and the game against the Valhalla Norsemen. Coach Ash, this is a must-win, really, for you guys in a way.
Yeah, well, I think that I think there's a path, regardless of the outcome this week, to get us into the playoffs. It is certainly very important, no doubt. We play so few Division III teams, and El Cap's probably the same way, just on the other side of it. We only play 2 or 3 Division III teams on our schedule, so those games, those opportunities will become heightened. And Valhalla was one of them, and we already lost that one. So we're most likely going to be behind them in the rankings. And now here's another shot. And, as you mentioned, it's very, very important for both teams. Couldn't be any more important as far as the playoffs go. Now, the fact that we're not in the same league, it still gives you something to play for outside of what happens this Friday. But certainly, Division III playoffs, it's huge. The way they've restructured the playoff, you've got a feeling that maybe you could beat anybody who's in there in Division III if you can get in, but also it's harder to get in than it used to be because some of those teams that would be at the bottom of Division III, well, they're in 4 now or 5 instead of being in Division III. So it's tougher to get in, but if you can get in the tournament, you feel like you got a chance to win a couple games. So for us over the next 3 or 4 weeks here, we got to earn our way into the tournament.
For us, this is a game for us. Like our backs against the wall. If we lose this game, I think it's impossible for us to get in the playoffs. We're going to need 2 or 3 wins. What helps us is obviously the power rankings of the teams that we're going to play in the next 5 weeks. But, you know, if we don't have a win, we don't deserve to go to the playoffs. And like Casey said, you know, we really feel if we can somehow get into the playoffs, we can make a pretty deep run at that time of the year. So for us, it's do or die. Like our backs are against the wall. And I've told the kids that over and over, you know, this is a game where you just got to let it loose because there's no more tomorrow. We gotta fight tooth and nail. And I think that's what both teams are going to end up doing.
Yeah, Coach Ron, I don't think there's any, you know, panic. Those games are must win, but the game against the Wolfpack, the game against the Norsemen, and the thing in Division 3 seems like modern day hilltop teams have actually, you know, those games they just got away from you like a couple of those games have. So, guys, I've let us down a little bit. I kind of want to continue. I think we've covered enough, and just chalk it up to me. I may have let us down on this connection by trying something a little bit different, but I hope you'll bear with me and try this again. Dave, I see you there. I don't even know if you can help me sign up with the guys. I'll just say West Hills leads the all-time series 16-15. So an LCAP win would even this series. Keep the trophy back at El Capitan High School, the Tony Berner Memorial Trophy. It's this Friday night. Coach Ron Berner of the El Capitan Vaqueros, Coach Casey Ash of the West Hills Wolfpack. Dave, thank you as well. I'll apologize to you and to the coaches, but hopefully we got some great information out there and get people a little bit fired up for this week's game. All right, guys, I'm just signing off, but thanks a lot. Great job by you guys. Not a great job by me. Yeah, I'll see you guys later.
All right. Thanks a lot. See you, Case.
Good night. We'll see you.
All right, Dave. Sorry about that, brother.